Good evening. It is 7:02 p.m. and we are in the Nashua North Boardroom. It is Wednesday, June 19th, and I'm calling this meeting of the Nashua Board of Education to order. Mr. Guarino, could you call the roll, please?
Okay, Ms. Oden?
Here.
Ms. Raymond?
Here.
Mr. Kaufman?
Here.
Mr. Mosher?
I'm here.
Mr. Mosher is joining us by phone tonight. Are you by yourself?
Yes, I am.
Thank you. Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes, I'm here.
Ms. Van Twyver is joining us by telephone. Are you by yourself, Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes, I am.
Okay. Mr. Guarino is here. Ms. Hohensee?
Here.
Ms. Timmons?
Here.
Ms. Porter?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino.
Oh, other attendees, Dr. Mosley? Mr. Donovan? Ms. O'Gara? Here. And Ms. Fitzpatrick?
Here.
And Mr. Eade is also with us. Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Guarino. If you could please lead us in the prayer, and Mrs. Oden, if you wouldn't mind leading us in the pledge.
Please stand. Almighty God, we have the high honor and the serious duty of managing the educational institutions of our beloved city. In our common endeavors, may we find a spirit of unity and understanding which will enable us to face our multiple problems with an objective mind, with justice and charity for all, so that any and all decisions made by us will be for the betterment and greater happiness of all of our fellow citizens. Amen.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to begin this evening with a short presentation of, I believe, the commencement ceremonies from all of our schools. Thank you, Mr. Donovan.
A stranger to the dark. Hide away, they say, 'cause we don't want your broken parts. I've learned to be ashamed of all my scars. Run away, they say, no one will love you as you are. But I won't let them break me down to dust. I know that there's a place for us, for we are glorious. Sharpest words wanna cut me down. I'm gonna send the blood, gonna drown them out. I am brave, I am bruised, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. Look out, 'cause here I come. And I'm marching on to the beat I drum. I'm not scared to be seen, I make no apologies. This is me. Another round of bullets hits my skin. Well, fire away, 'cause today I won't let the shit in. We are bursting through the gonna drown them out. This is brave, this is bruised, this is who I'm meant to be, this is me.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley, and congratulations to all of our students who have graduated or been promoted to the next school. I had the pleasure of attending a couple of those ceremonies, and they were all very moving, and we're all very proud of our students. So, oops. Okay, moving on to the consent agenda. Are there any items that people would like to remove from the consent agenda? Ms. Hohensee.
The May 13th minutes.
Okay. Anything else? Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda with the removal of the May 13th minutes. Yeah, please.
Why are we removing the May 13th minutes? What's the purpose?
Typically, we just approve that, everything else, and then we discuss why it was removed.
Okay.
So, would anyone like to make a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of the May 13th?
I'll second.
Well, I don't have a
Second?
motion.
Oh, I'll make a motion.
To approve the consent agenda with the exception of May 13th minutes. Any seconds?
Second.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mosier. Roll call?
On the motion to approve the minutes,
No, the consent agenda.
I'm sorry, the consent agenda with the May 13th, 2019 minutes removed. Ms. Oden?
No.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensee?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
No.
Ms. Porter?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses, and 1, 2, 3 noes. Motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. Items removed from the consent agenda. Ms. Hohensee?
Thank you. The agenda indicates that the minutes were amended. That's not true. The minutes that are online are still the same original minutes, and I've got 3 issues with them. The first was the board president stated at our last meeting that she would find a compromise between verbatim minutes and the current minutes that only mentioned whether a commenter wanted JROTC program inside or outside, on campus or off campus. This was a controversial topic. There were 2.5 hours of public comments. There needs to be a concise summary of the points that were made.
Okay, did you want to discuss each item, or do you want to list all
Well,
3?
You had promised that you would find a compromise. No
So
compromise.
I said I would
was-
seek to find a compromise. I spoke with the woman who does our minutes at length. We did a lot of research on how minutes have historically been done, what any kind of regulations regarding minutes. And basically what we found is historically, she's tried to summarize them. But she felt, and I agree with her, that with 2.5 hours, it would be a Herculean task and really unfair for her to try and decide which comments to truncate and which comments not to truncate. And there was really not a way to do that in a fair and equitable manner. So we went back to the pro and con method that she and I had initially discussed and that she had done on the minutes. I know it says as amended. I think that was simply a mistake. Regarding Anyone who wants to know exactly what each individual person said, they're welcome to go watch the YouTube video. We have the audio recording on our website as well. The other thing that I would mention is that best practice is not to do verbatim public comments. Best practice is to really say there were public comments and not go into significant detail. But it's been our practice in this district to provide some information about what the public comments were about. Public comments are intended to inform the board of the public's opinion, not to be a platform. So, yes, Mr. Guarino.
Thank you, Madam President. I move to approve the May 13th, 2019 minutes of the Board of
I'm not-
Education.
I'm not done yet.
Okay, thank you.
That doesn't matter.
Well,
Can someone second it, please?
I second it.
Thank you.
discussion.
I have the public minutes from May 13th must include objections to the non-public session. Failure to include my objections in the public minutes violates the right to know law, as I pointed out in our last meeting. I will read the pertinent section of the law that is currently being violated. If the objection, this is a quote, if the objection is to a discussion in non-public session, the objection shall also be recorded in the public minutes. But the notation of the public minutes shall include the board member's name, the statement that he or she objected to the discussion in non-public session, and a reference to the provision of the RSA 91A:3, that was the basis for the discussion. So I objected 3 times during non-public when the board discussed the wording for a motion to suspend for the JROTC marksmanship program. The public motions should never be discussed in non-public. Based on those illegal discussions, the board president refused to allow me to make a motion or even amend a motion. She knew in advance which board member would make a more favorable motion. The public minutes should include the following tests: my name, my objection to the discussion of the wording of the motion to suspend, and the RSA numbers that we went into non-public for.
But again, those were things in non-public, and my understanding, and having talked this over at length with Ms. Waters, is she can't take something that happened in non-public and put it in the public minutes. She just can't do that. So unless we get some legal guidance saying that that is in fact allowed,
That was the verbatim from RSA 91A:2, meetings open to the public.
right?
If I made that objection, those objections are noted in the non-public minutes, and it's noted in the public minutes. It's a change to the law that we are not following.
Okay.
And I pointed it out so that we could update and amend the minutes so we could follow them.
Okay. Can you email that to me?
Yes.
Or provide me a copy, please, and then I will
RSA.
bring that to Ms. Waters and to Mr. Clausen, and we'll try and find a way to comply with the law. It's obviously not our intention not to comply with the law. Regarding the rest of what you've said, I have no idea what you're talking about. You did object, but there was nothing illegal that happened, and I particularly am resentful of the implication. I mean, we had 8 people who voted to seal the minutes after we concluded our non-public. Therefore, 8 people felt that the non-public was justified. I understand that you've changed your mind since that time, and that's perfectly fine. You have the right to do that, but you can't then claim that what we did was illegal when there's no new information and you didn't feel that way at the time.
There was new information discoverable under a right-to-know request that now made it clear that the incident discussed in non-public was not confidential. It was in the public domain. As such, it did not merit a non-public discussion. Number 2, the board was told that protocols were not followed. When I immediately asked for a copy of the protocols that were broken,
Are you discussing exactly
I'm
what
not-
was discussed in non-public? Because
I
if
am
you're
not
doing that, I'm going to
discussing
cut you
names.
off.
I am not discussing what the protocols are or any of the incidents.
Nope.
This is process.
No,
We went into non-public and we broke process.
no,
We
we're not discussing what happened in non-public in public. If you would like to make a motion to unseal the minutes, you are 100% welcome to do that. And we will entertain that motion after we voted on the motion that's on the floor, which is to approve those minutes. but I will not sit here and allow you to speak about any discussions that happened in non-public publicly, period.
Point of order, why would we approve minutes that we just discussed that need to be amended before we approve them?
So you have suggested that you feel that your interpretation of that law is that they need to be amended. And I respect that. I'm perfectly comfortable with that. But Mr. Guarino disagrees and made a motion to that effect.
I read the law, but go ahead. We'll vote on that, and then we'll vote to unseal.
On the motion to approve the May 13th, 2019 minutes, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
No, you just said you were
Mr.
going to speak to
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Greeno votes yes, Ms. Hohensie,
No.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter.
Yes.
I have 7 yeses and 2 nos. Motion carries 7-2.
I'd like to move to unseal the audio tape and the draft minutes of the May 13th non-public session.
Second.
I'd like to speak to my motion.
I believe you have. Do you have something else to add?
This matter should not have been discussed in non-public. It did not qualify under the right to know as it was not confidential emergency issue. It was in the public domain, and there was no evidence that any protocols were violated. So I urge my members to unseal these minutes.
Okay, I could not disagree with you more. We discussed a personnel matter that involved more than one individual who was an employee of the district. Therefore, we cannot discuss it publicly. It should not have been released publicly. Ms. Oden?
I just want to say I fully agree with Ms. Raymond.
Okay. Any other discussion? Okay, roll call, Mr. Guarino?
On the motion to unseal the May 13th non-public session minutes, Ms. Oden,
No.
Ms. Raymond,
No.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
No.
Ms. Van Twyver,
No.
Mr. Greeno votes no. Ms. Hohensie,
Yes?
Ms. Timmons,
No.
Ms. Porter.
No.
I have 2 yeses, 7 nos. Motion fails.
Okay. Moving right along. Any communications outside the consent agenda? Okay, seeing none, it's now time for the public question comment period, limited to items on this agenda. Mr. Donovan, do we have individuals signed up for public comment? Okay. Thank you so much. Okay, Mr. T-Boom. You're welcome to use either chair. No, please sit and use the microphone so that we can get you on tape.
Okay, good evening. My name is Fred T-Boom.
Wait, it's not picking you up. If you could move the microphone closer, please.
Closer?
Let's try again. I want to make sure it's getting
Now
you.
can you hear me?
Much better, thank you.
Okay, good evening. My name is Fred T-Boom, resident at 24 Cheyenne Drive. My children and grandchildren have and are attending Nashua schools, and soon my great-grandchildren will be attending. So I have an enduring interest in these schools. I'm here to address the Choose Love Social Emotional Learning pilot program being recommended on the agenda today for the kindergarten and elementary classrooms for the 2019-2020 school year. First of all, let me say that I am totally disgusted with the school board president, the superintendent of schools, and the president of the Nashua Teachers Union, who, like a vicious pack of hyenas, publicly attacked Ms. Hohensie because she is opposed to the Choose Love Social Emotional Learning Program. In opposing the program, Ms. Hohensie quoted from an author, an American author, whose writing was adopted by the Nazis. Quoting Nazi literature does not make Ms. Hohensee a Nazi. For example, giving talks as a founder of the New Hampshire Holocaust Memorial and a child survivor, I often quote Joseph Goebbels when I give a talk, who said, "If you tell a lie big enough and keep repeating it, people will eventually come to believe it." I quote this to make an effective point-counterpoint, same as Ms. Hohensee did. The school board president, the superintendent of schools, and the president of the National Teachers Union should be ashamed of themselves for callously and ruthlessly attacking Doris Hohensee while they demanded that she resign. Now, let me turn to the Choose Love social emotional learning pilot program being proposed for the kindergarten. Something funny, Mr. Superintendent, while I'm speaking?
Mr. T-Boom, could you please read your statement? People are
appreciate-
listening patiently and politely to you. If you
I
could,
appreciate people not laughing while I'm sitting here reading, okay? Or smirking.
Mr. T-Boom.
Now, let me turn to the Choose Love social emotional learning pilot program being proposed for the kindergarten and elementary classrooms. For one, if there is no time for instructing cursive, how will there be time for teaching this curriculum? Based on the attack on Ms. Hohensee, I decided personally to look into this program. I reviewed the attachments to the minutes of the 10 June Curriculum Committee meetings minutes, and then I viewed a 1.5-hour video presented to the school board in April by Scarlett Lewis about social emotional learning. In fact, I found what I heard so incredulous that I played part of the video twice. 1.5-hour video. About an hour into the video, when grade school kids are asked what they think about the program, a boy that I'd say is about 10 years old says, and I quote, "I thought courage is a knight in shining armor, but now I know that courage means helping others, not yourself." How wrong can that be? How brainwashed can a little kid be? Courage is what awarded for individual bravery under adverse condition. Bravery, courage is a knight in shining armor. There are many other like examples in this video. And then it struck me. This whole program is nothing but the feminization of boys, an alarming trend in education today. Let me repeat this. I believe social emotional learning is a deliberate program to feminize boys. Doris Hohensee is absolutely correct. Social emotional learning is a harmful program that teaches behavior not conducive to the competitive education of our children. Behavior that is best left to be taught in a home, not in a classroom. So I decided to take a look at the latest ranked performance in our Nashua schools, which I believe is the true purpose of education, namely to prepare our children, my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, your children, to compete in an increasingly competitive world. And when I looked at the ranking, the results were truly alarming. It won't take much time, but if you look at the city of Nashua, out of 167 communities, Nashua is in the 34% from the bottom in terms of education performance. If you look at the New Hampshire School District, Out of 156 school districts, Nashua High School is in the bottom 26%. Academy of Science and Design, by the way, is in the top in this entire state. It's 8th highest in the entire nation. And the Nashua School District is in 26th from the bottom. Nashua High Schools fare a little better. Nashua High School South is at 60%, but Nashua High School North is in the 45%. Anything below 50% is unacceptable. And this district is consistently below 50%. Look at the middle school, it gets sadder. Pennachuck Middle School, 21% from the bottom out of 132 schools, middle school. Elm Street, 14% from the bottom out of 132 schools. Fairgrounds, 13% from the bottom. It got sadder. It got worse. Now let's take a look at elementary schools. Main Street does good. Dunstable, 85%. I say that's a good score. Bicentennial always does good. And surprisingly, they're not on top. They're behind Main Dunstable. Good for them. Good for Main Dunstable, 76%. That's good. New Searles, 74%. That's good. Top, 25%. Charlotte, 61%. Not quite as good, so-so. But now it gets pretty sad. Wall Street School, 46%. And it used to be a good school. My kids used to go there. Sunset High, 33% from the bottom. Birch Hill, 25% from the bottom. Fairgrounds, 18% from the bottom. Crisp, 14% from the bottom. Pleasant School, 10% from the bottom. Amherst, 8%, and Ledges on the very bottom, 2%. 2% from the bottom out of 231 elementary schools. That's very sad. We simply cannot tolerate the dismal performance we see creeping into our schools, beginning in our elementary schools. We need a school board and a superintendent focused like a laser beam on improving the performance in our schools. We throw more than enough money at our education, about $161 million in our 2020 budget, taking account of all expenses, including debt payments. Mr. Donovan can attest to that. I'm usually pretty correct in my figures. That represents more than half the entire city's budget of $317 million. And more will be spent. We spent $80 million on the planned Elm Street School. If the superintendent can cut it, he must be replaced. If the school board can cut it, they must be unelected. And the teachers' union needs to stay out of education policy altogether. But you must dismiss harmful social engineering like social emotional learning and do a far better job on educational performance. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing your thoughts, Mr. Teboom. Okay. Mr. Duffy, did you have a comment on this agenda? Okay. Yes, both microphones are working. I just didn't want Mr. Teboom to have to walk all the way across the room.
All right.
Since
Yes,
we have
this
a
is,
seat.
I am Bob Duffy from 7 Brick Manor Drive here in Nashua, and my daughter is in the school system. And I have become aware of the social emotional learning program, which is proposed to be adopted for the kindergarten through 5th grade under the Choose Love variety. And apparently, from what I've done some research, there are many, many different versions of the same basic program. Now, I don't know exactly how the Choose Love fits in, but I do know that people have complained that measuring character traits of children that young can not necessarily result in true understanding of what they're going to be like in later life. If someone is characterized as being too talkative or not paying attention as a kindergarten student, that may hold them back later if they're tagged with that. And apparently, from what I understand, that's part of this, is they're documenting these character traits. Now, report cards always used to say how the child did in school, whether they paid attention, whether they did their work on time. Now, this appears to be a more standardized, more complex system, which of course would mean more work for the teachers themselves, and I can't understand why they would support a program like this that requires them to have more documentation and it's more work for them. Every child is different, and they know that. They treat each student and each class differently. To try and have them conform to a set standard may result in some unusual results. And there are people who do say that there is a dark side to social emotional learning, and one of which is that there be too much introspection on the children's part, that the children will be asked to judge themselves too much. Now, I know my employer used to have a policy every year for annual reviews where the person had to rate himself. And of course, if the person did very well, they would say, you can't put that down, you have to say something bad. So how is this going to work out when a child is very good and someone says, well, we can't put down everything is good because it just won't look right? That will be unfair to the good children. And we all know there are some that were exceptional children. And I'm just saying that with this social emotional learning, the Choose Love program, I think that it should be investigated a little bit further, and I don't think that it should be forced on the entire school system just yet. There's still a lot of controversy about this, and the internet is full of sites pro and against. And I think at this time it'd be best to just postpone this and let the teachers continue what they were doing with their classes as they're doing it student by student, person by person basis. And thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Was there anyone else who wished to speak who missed the sign-up sheet? Okay, seeing none, we're moving on. Dr. Mosley, it's time for the superintendent comments.
It's unfortunate that we have to start our meetings this way. I would say that I am most proud of our students over this past week. I want to start by saying I'm proud of our kids for their graduation. They did a wonderful job. And I wish that some of the individuals here tonight who could see the other side of the great things that happen in our schools, not just our high schools, but our middle schools, our elementary schools. I've had the fortunate privilege, the great thing about what happened tonight, and I hope it doesn't get lost in translation, I hope that video is something that will be shared on our website, that I encourage those who have reservations about what we're doing in our schools to view it again and again and again. I encourage those individuals who are skeptical or say things negative about our schools, that there are some great kids in our schools, that you're missing the point. We have kids who have graduated, who are going to UCLA, who are going to private schools, who are going to Dartmouth, who are being accepted to multiple top-tier schools. We have kids who are actually going into the vocational profession. They can make a lot of money. I'm proud of them. What you didn't miss and what you should know is that we have kids who are going into the military to serve our country, and I'm so proud of them. And I hope you are too. Our schools, yes, we have some issues, yes, we have some things to work on, but every day we are making better strides. Coming in this form and saying the teachers union has to stay out of it, the board, that's not going to work here. We can't educate our kids in silos. We need our teachers. We need this collaboration. And that's how it's going to work. Now, I'm not here to defend what was said earlier or nothing like that. I'm just here to say that I encourage those who are skeptics to take some time to review that video, which will be on our website, to talk to our teachers, not talk to them or at them, talk with them. I encourage you to go to some of our schools and visit our administrators and how proud they are of their kids and our kids. This past weekend, it was an amazing ceremony for both the North and the South, and we graduated our seniors. And man, that was a great event for our community. We spent the whole day there. It's probably one of the best Father's Day that I had, and I'm sure others as well. We have still a lot of work to do. I want to say, first of all, to our kids and our families, congratulations on the year of school. June 18th was our last day of school. It was a half a day, and we're at summer break now. For those kids who are still struggling with summer program, and particularly our middle school kids, we're still accepting applications for our Power Scholar program, and I encourage you to reach out to our Assistant Superintendent, Donna Fitzpatrick, if you're still interested in that. Last week, we did a strategic plan workshop with our board, and believe it or not, I have to say that there was some pretty good consensus on some things that we can improve on, and things that we missed in our strategic plan. One of them being social emotional pieces to it. And so with that feedback, we continue to make some refinement to our process of strategic planning. We met today to make some more edits to that. And our hope and our plan is to come together with all constituents, not just the teachers, not just the administrators of the board, but all of us to get on a plan to move this district forward responsibly, collectively, and together. The other thing to this is that I just want to say I didn't get to all of the end of the year events, but I do know that I was at Charlotte Ave and I saw two parents placing balloons on the kids' bikes as they were leaving. I thought that was beautiful. I didn't get a chance to get to Amherst Street because it was a half a day, but the buses were being dismissed, so I apologize for that. I was at the Fairgrounds Elementary School moving on ceremony, and I say moving on. There's only 2 graduations here in the district. It's at the north and the south. You're just moving on. There's no graduating from the elementary school to the middle school to the high school. Just 2 graduations. So I wanted to say thank you to our students, thank you to our faculty. I hope that you have an opportunity to rest and relax and spend some time with family and friends. For the faculty who are going to be working in our summer programs, again, thank you for being with our kids. Thank you, and I hope that you get some rest from now until when the programs begin. Be safe out there, kids, and we'll pick it up next year. I appreciate everything. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mosley. Do we have any board response to superintendent comments? Ms. Timmons?
Thank you, Dr. M. I always call you that. My children, my grandchildren, and now my great-grandchildren attend Nashua Public Schools. I had one graduated this past Sunday. I went to most of those graduations, and those pictures came from my camera. And I just want you to know that I did speak to the teachers, the faculty, the kids, and they're all happy here. The negativity we don't see outside. If these board members would go to any event, they would see positivity. They will not see all the negative stuff that they bring into this room. But outside this room, it's positive. We're doing amazing things in our schools. My grandchildren, it's 8 of them, attend several different schools in Nashua. Not one complaint, not one unhappy child. I have 1 coming out, 2 going in. So it's always going to be someone in the Nashua school system that's part of my family. I'm very happy to say that I'm glad the teachers are doing what they're doing. I'm glad NTU are doing what they're doing to make sure the teachers are doing what they're doing, and I'm glad our administration are doing what they're doing. And if it's choose love is the answer, so be it, because I see nothing but happy kids. I went to these ceremonies. Where were you? Why weren't you there? It did not go unnoticed. I just want to say that.
Thank you, Ms. Timmons. Ms. Oden?
Yes, I want to say I thought the graduations were just amazing. North and South, the respectfulness that the students showed to each other and to everybody that was involved in it. I've been to graduations in the early 90s at Holman Stadium when the beach balls were going up in the air and kids were hooting. It was very respectful and very solemn. And when you heard the speeches and saw how the students behaved. There's a future generation that's going to make us proud. I look at the adult and community education that Laurie Rathhouse has here. I believe there were 43 graduates, the highest number they've had. And also, what I didn't realize, that there were between 20 and 30 students that finished, that achieved their competency and went back and they were able to walk with their class at the high school level, at the graduation at not the Verizon Center, Schnoo Center, I guess. And then last night, there was a wonderful graduation from Clearway, and those Clearway students are our students, and I believe they said that was the largest class that had graduated there. Those kids were just fantastic. So, you know, we're trying to do everything we can for these kids. We're working together with the community, and I think we ought to be applauded and thank the people that are working so hard with our kids, because for me, the high point of being on the Board of Education is going to graduation and see those kids walk across the stage to get their diploma. That's what we're here for. Thanks.
Thank you, Ms. Oden. Mr. Guarino?
Thank you, Madam President. I want to talk about our public school successes. 23 success stories at Clearway, 43 success stories at adult education, 370 success stories at Nashua High South, another 380, I believe, at Nashua High North. These are all public school success stories right here, okay? And I want to thank all of our teachers for their hard work and dedication to our students. And I know we talk about money all the time. How much does education cost? It costs a lot of money. Education costs a lot of money. But it is humanly impossible to put a dollar amount on what our teachers do for our students in this district. It is impossible to put a dollar amount on what the teachers do for my daughter in this public school district. So I want to thank all of our teachers for their hard work and their dedication. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kaufman?
Thanks. I'd actually like to address something that Dr. Mosley said, which I thought was the purpose of this segment. You mentioned the strategic plan and that there's some missing pieces, and that you said social emotional learning was one of those things that needed more. I would just like to point out, because it was not a very well publicly attended meeting. In fact, there were no guests here that night. It was we played to an empty room, as it were. And I just want to point out some of the missing pieces that I've identified at that meeting and previously, which have not yet been addressed to my knowledge. Those include, for me, the biggest elephant in the room relative to the strategic plan is the lack of specifically addressing the annual increases in special ed costs. That drives our budget and kills our budget on an annual basis, anywhere from $200,000 to $600,000 or more. We made some budgetary adjustments this year, but the costs tend to go up over sustainable years. And that money has to come from somewhere. The increases we get from the mayor in whatever budget gets approved for us are largely eaten up by special ed or the union contracts. There's very little money that finds its way into any other programs. The second thing that was missing in the strategic plan that we had last week that Dr. Mosley spoke about was there's no IT plan, our technology. There's no overall strategic addressing of the technology used in the schools and the costs of that. It's $1 million a year, and it's not strategically addressed in that plan. By the way, that plan consisted of a 2-page summary and a series of charts. There's no narrative, there's no analysis, there's no supporting data in that plan. The other piece was that career and technical education was not even mentioned as a key theme. In one of the charts on the left-hand side, it had all these major points that were developed from the focus groups. Career and technical education was not even on the list. And that's key to the success of our kids. Dr. Mosley spoke about how some of our students, particularly in the computer area where they learn how to program Cisco routers, whatever that is, for the people that know, they know. And those kids get level 1 and level 2 certification. But the strategic plan makes no mention of that. And then I just want to drill down into one last thing about, you spoke about there's only 2 graduations at the high schools, and I understand that. And that everybody else just kind of moves on from grade to grade. And I've spoken with teachers a couple of years ago. I won't get into why I don't speak to them now. We've been asked not to speak to teachers. They've been told not to speak to us. That's a sore point. But this notion of moving on is really critical because when the kids transition, say, from elementary to middle school, there's no criteria that they need to meet. There's nothing that says, yeah, they're ready to move up. They don't have we can't, to the best of my knowledge, we don't test a baseline of knowledge that says, okay, you're going from 5th to 6th, you know X, Y, Z, and everything else. So we know that when you get over there, you're going to be able to function and be prepared and excel. Instead, we move on our students. And when you look at the performance data, we have this aggregation of what they call level tier 2 and tier 3 students, which are kids that are 2 years behind as a tier 2 and 3 or more years behind as a tier 3. And those numbers are growing. Now, if the district did something sensible in the strategic plan and addressed the fact of how students move from grade to grade and put criteria that everybody knows needs to be met, I think the standards and the performance would be a lot better. And it's supposed to be discussed in curriculum in the future. I bring it up now because things get lost when it comes time to put things on agendas. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say for now.
Thank you, Mr. Coffin. I'd just like to remind everyone that that was a draft, and we have another work session coming up July 8th. So we'll be working on that again. So, Ms. Hohensee.
Thank you. I'm disappointed that the superintendent would take the genuine, sincere comments of our neighbors as a personal affront. This is not constructive, and this is not respectful. That's
Called
all.
him a jackal.
Mr. Guarino.
Interrupting?
Give me a break.
Mr. Guarino.
Interrupting.
It deserves to be,
No,
point of
Mr.
information. We're getting called jackals, and
Yes, but
You know, I
we're
mean, give
public
me a break.
officials, and we need to behave in a more...
when neighbors come here and are not respectful,
Mr. Guarino.
give me a break.
Mr. Guarino. Ms. Hohensee was speaking.
I apologize, Madam President, but I think the truth ought to be said, that's all.
Okay. Restrain yourself, please. Ms. Hohensee,
I will, sure.
please continue.
Thank you. This is indicative. When people come here and they get booed or yelled or talked down to for expressing their opinions, sharing what they think, and ridiculed, you expect them to come back? You expect them to have a high opinion of our board?
Well,
I'm just very disappointed. Thank you.
okay. Thank you, Ms. Hohensee. I would like to point out that I believe I was respectful and thanked everyone for their thoughts, and I've tried to consistently do that. People are welcome to come and express their thoughts at our meetings. That's why we have public comments. Okay. I just want to say briefly, my thoughts got scrambled when we speak out of turn. Regarding, no, not yet. The board response to superintendent's comments. I just wanted to congratulate our graduates. I found many of the ceremonies incredibly moving. Some of our students have overcome an amazing amount of adversity in their lives, and they face challenges that most of us will never face. And to be able to do that and to still succeed and graduate is just amazing. And seeing the time and the support that our staff have put in to helping kids get what they need has been really inspiring. And I would just like to put a plug in for Power Scholars as well. It's a great program. I really encourage parents to reach out to Ms. Fitzpatrick at the Central office if they feel like their student could benefit from this program. When does it start, Dr. Mosley? Ms. Patrick,
Good.
do you?
I'm sorry, I don't know the date exactly. Do you know, Donna?
Next week.
So it starts next week. So time is of the essence if you would like your student to be enrolled. But it's great. Student member of the board comments. Mr. Eid.
Our online members?
I'm sorry.
Our
Oh,
on-
I am so sorry. Mr. Mosier, did you have a response to the superintendent comments?
I was just thinking about it, and I was running with my mind that how easy it is to be so critical of each and every person, especially the superintendent, who has has to have broad shoulders to do what he's doing, and to other members of the board that they have the ability to be so critical and be so disappointed in everything that we have about us. And I think that overall, we're doing a pretty good job, except for certain ones. But just on the idea of being critical, everybody can point the finger and say that we're doing this wrong, or we're doing that wrong, or we're doing something else wrong, and nobody has to say that it's on. But the fact still remains that even though they're pointing their finger at it, I don't hear anybody saying anything creative and putting out worthwhile comments and saying that, well, we take like this, but we can do better if we do that. So, yeah, I've had my say, and everybody knows what my thinking is.
Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Ms. Van Twyver, I apologize. Did you have a response to the superintendent comments?
Thank you, Madam President. Graduation is always a stupendous time. I've sat on that dais a number of years and watched the kids come across the stage to get their diploma. It's really rewarding. And not only that, I used to attend my bicentennial's graduation where the children moved from 5th to 6th grade. And it's always a wonderful time of the year, and I really do appreciate that. I miss being there myself, but it's just physically impossible for me to do all the walking and whatever. So I congratulate all our graduates. I wish them well in wherever their life takes them, and hopefully we've given them the love to learn so that it's a lifelong growth period. It's kind of sad, too, because you see some of the good ones go off their way and you don't see them again, but graduation is wonderful. We do a good job of that.
Thank you, Ms. Van Twyver. Now, Mr. Eid.
Thank you. So South graduation was on June 16th, so I'd like to say congrats to all the seniors and the students moving on. And I'd also like to say thank you to all teachers, faculty, and even this board for another good year in the National School District. Another thing, South finalized their student representative to the Board of Ed election procedures, and it was passed by the Senate, and Christopher Richards okayed it. On May 28th, South had its annual academic recognition and book awards ceremony. And on June 8th, there was our senior prom, and so have a good summer. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Eid. Ms. Scales.
There are going to be senior pictures for the Nashua High School North students in July for the upcoming seniors. And the Nashua High School North has finished their Board of Education student representatives election procedures. Hopefully they'll be in effect by December of this year. And I would also like to address, I'd also like to say congratulations to all the graduated seniors that have graduated and moved on from the school. Personally, my brother graduated, and it was such a blessing to see him walk across that stage. All the speeches made from, sorry, can I just bring this closer a little bit?
Yeah.
All the speeches made from the Nashua North and Nashua South graduating class were inspiring, courageous, and bold. And sorry to take this on a negative note, but as a student, I felt as though, as a student rep, I felt as though I owe the students of the Nashua School District an apology. So some statements were bolder than others, and with that being said, I would like to apologize for the insulting, vulgar, and inappropriate language used at one of the high school graduations. Because it was said publicly, I'd like to publicly apologize, and because it was said by a student, I'd like to apologize as a student representative. It was unethical, and I sincerely apologize for the language used at that graduation, and I hopefully in the future, it will not be used again.
Thank you, Ms. Scales. I think it was very shocking for all of us.
Congrats to those who have moved on from our school and the students who have moved on to the next grade. And for those who are repeating their grade, don't be discouraged, because that is one more year to better yourself and to accept the challenges you face this year. We are rooting for you, and as the NHSN motto says, we will not give up on you, even when you give up on yourself. I'd also like to address the Juneteenth celebration, which was today. Sorry, 1 second. It dropped on the floor. The Emancipation Proclamation was a presidential proclamation and executive order issued by Abraham Lincoln on January 1st, 1863. It changed the federal legal status for more than 5 million enslaved Africans in designated areas of the South from slave to free. Then, slavery was officially federally abolished by the 13th Amendment, which took effect December 18th, 1865. Sadly, many slaves didn't know they were free, and for those who did, where would they go? If there was so much hate, and how could they be free if their natural freedoms such as education, learning, to read or write were stripped from them? On June 19, 1865, the announcement of the abolishment of slavery in Texas was made. From then on, June 19th, also known as Juneteenth, was celebrated by African Americans. And I'm proud to say that as of today, it is an official holiday in New Hampshire. Governor Christopher T. Sununu signed to establish June 19th, also known as Juneteenth, as a holiday today, June 19th, 2019. I would also like to thank Senator Melanie Levesque for pushing to really make this happen, as well as everyone else who attended.
And Senator Rosenblum.
Yes, sorry.
Rosenblum.
Sorry. And an abundance of gratitude to Jordan Thompson for ensuring that the city of Nashua had a public celebration of this historical day of U.S. history. The turnout was amazing for both the signing and the public celebration at the Nashua Public Library today. Thank you. That'll be all.
Thank you, Ms. Scales. That's a very important piece of history, and I think New Hampshire is making history today as well. So thank you very much for that. Okay. And I don't know how finance and operations is going to follow up, but.
Committee on the budget.
We had a meeting on June 11th, and we have a few motions coming forward. I recommend the approval of the contract between the Nashua School District and Mr. David Moore for $20,000 to be paid from the Department of Education Innovation Grant Funds.
Second.
Okay. Discussion? This is for CTE, is correct?
Yes, it's for the CTE program so that they can, I believe, look to coordinate a lot of the programs in the state. Mr. Donovan, is that?
Yes, it's
Yeah.
creating a website
Mhm.
for the region and for each individual school within that region.
Great. All right. Can you take the roll, please, Mr. Guarino?
On the motion, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver? Ms. Van Twyver?
Did we lose Ms. Van Twyver?
Ms. Van Twyver, are you there?
All right, we'll skip over it and
Okay.
try and call her
Uh,
back.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
I have 8 yeses and 0 nos. Motion carries.
Thank you. Hold on a moment. Ms. Hohensie, would you mind trying to call Ms. Van Twyver back? That way Mr. Guarino is able to take notes.
7.
I recommend the approval of the following special education contracts for the 2019-2020 school year from account 91.1.02216053614 to Clark Associates for $847,000 and ABC Physical Therapy for $233,000.
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Were you successful, Ms. Hohensie?
Yes, she's on the line.
All right, thank you very much.
On the motion to approve special ed contract for the 2019-2020 year for Clark Associates and ABC Physical Therapy, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver.
Oh,
Mr. Guarino votes yes. I can hear her. Can you hear us? Can you hear us?
Is it me?
Yes.
yes, that's better.
Okay.
Yes, I said yes.
Okay, Ms. Hohensie?
Put up, I'm sorry.
No problem.
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Great.
Recommend the approval of the following special education contracts for the 2019-2020 school year to be paid for by the IDEA grant. The Micro Society Academy Charter School for $62,000, Gate City Charter School for the Arts, $15,000, Carroll Center for the Blind, $40,000, Literacy Learning Solutions, $40,000, Booth Bay Therapy Services, $30,000, and Rethink for $14,500.
I'll second.
On the motion, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver.
Yes,
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Recommend to award the contract for pavement markings to D&M Striping in the amount of $17,280, which includes a $1,280 allowance for additional work to be paid for by contract services in FY 2020 out of account 91-12226-620-53628.
Second.
On the motion to award contract for pavement markings to D&M Striping, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver.
yes,
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Recommend to award the contract for paving work at Amherst Street, Mount Pleasant, and Nashua High School North to Hudson Paving in the amount of $286,242 with funds from City Bonding Resolution R18077.
Second. On the motion to award contract for paving work at Amherst Street, Mount Pleasant Street, and NHS North to Hudson Paving, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Greeno votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Recommend to award the contract for paving at Broad Street to Hudson Paving in the amount of $19,410 for fiscal year '20, operating budget account 91-1-222-620-5428.
Second. On the motion, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Greeno votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Recommend to award the contract to place fencing at Amherst Street in the amount of $8,500, $3,758 from City Bond Resolution R18-077, and the remaining $4,742 from the fiscal year '20 operating budget, account 91-1-222-620-54280.
Second.
On the motion, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Greeno votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Recommend to award the contract for generator replacement at Dr. Crisp and Bicentennial Schools to Powers Generator, not to exceed $89,900, $85,000 to come from City Bonding R18-077, and the remaining $4,900 to come from fiscal year '19 operating budget, account 91-1-222-620-61299.
Second.
On the motion, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Greeno votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Recommend to approve the contract with Enel X to enroll the school district in the Energy Demand Response Program.
Second.
On the motion, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Greeno votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Recommend to approve the 6-month contract with Attorney Tom Clausen in the amount of $4,000 per month, beginning in September 2019, account 91-1-0-12320-53128.
Second.
I have some discussion, please.
Certainly. Go right ahead, Mrs. Van Twyver.
Oh, thank you. I didn't realize that we only have a 6-month contract with Attorney Clausen. Is this something different than what we used to do before? I thought it was a yearly contract.
Either Dr. Mosley or Mr. Donovan.
Good.
The last contract was also 6 months, but then he didn't come back for another, so it just extended for a year. This basically is 6 months. If he chooses to come back and suggest a change in price, then it could be decided then. If not, we'll continue to pay that same amount.
The other question I have is that his hourly rate was $300 and something, which I guess is about $10 man hours a month. Do we get any kind of report on how many hours he puts in? I mean, I don't think I've seen him very much in the last year myself. So I'm just wondering about the number, how if we're using this money effectively, and how much do we use up every month?
I'll go for, I agree. I think the sentiment is that it's a 6 months contract and then he continues. I would recommend that the board, strongly recommend that the board consider a 1-year contract, particularly when you have a new board coming in and there's going to be some new things. In terms of Tom's time with us, to be quite honest with you, he probably exceeds that contract. He is with us quite frequently when we're dealing with personnel issues. In fact, he was on the phone with us today, dealing with a number of issues. I believe that this is a very favorable contract, given all the time he puts in with the board and with our district in resolving personnel issues. We've never asked Tom to submit time to us, but at the same time, he does a very good job for us. I say us, at HR, particularly working with Dana to resolve issues. And I would hope that the board doesn't go down the road of trying to change that relationship.
My understanding is that he is also a member of our negotiating team. So he's with us with all of the contracts that we have been negotiating. And then as we start our second round, I think Perez is coming up, and I forget, there's like 3 of them coming up in the next 6 months.
The district,
and he has availed himself to us on a 24/7 basis.
I would just, this is not the time to be, and I want to be as diplomatic as possible with this. He puts in more time than he's getting paid for his monthly fee. I would strongly recommend you sign off on this 1-year agreement, as it is a significant savings and a value to this to the district.
Just to be clear, it's a 6-month agreement, and that is at his request.
My other question
I
is,
wish it was a
though,
year.
that
Oh, I see.
are we using 10 or 12? How many hours a month are we using from this man? That's what I'm interested in seeing. I think I one time calculated the number of hours that the $4,000 buy us with his regular rate. I just would like to see some kind of report. To be personally honest with you, I've only seen him a couple times with the board in non-public. So I don't know what's going on behind, whether there are a lot of negotiations for contracts that's going on, and how many hours he spends on that. So I would just like to be able to say, yeah, we're getting our money's worth.
Okay. Mr. Donovan?
Yes, I mean, I did reach out to him and asked him what he's been averaging, and it's been well over the $4,000 at the hourly rate, what he's been averaging for the last 6 months. So unless the board sees that that's going to decrease significantly, I think this is the right step.
And I believe we have Ms. O'Gara, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe we have 3 separate contracts that will be beginning negotiations in the next 6 months.
We
Correct,
have
yes.
the paraprofessionals. Tom was also involved in the director's contract just recently. And we've also been dealing with the custodian contract that has been in fact-finding. But this isn't just something that happens in fact-finding. We have to prep for the fact-finding. We've been in pretty protracted negotiations with them from quite some time. And, all of these contracts are starting to come back online, are starting to expire, so.
Okay. Mr. Kaufman?
Thanks. I just want to point, this is a retainer. So there is the possibility that if there is an overage, the district would be billed for overage hours. So my question, no?
No.
This is a flat fee?
This is $4,000 a month. All the hours he works for that month is covered by $4,000.
Oh, I was along the mind of Ms. Van Twyver, which was there was X number of hours that were retained fees, and if there was an overage. So that, my question was going to be, I thought we've received a bill from him in the past for, I know if it was, litigation is separate. right? When he goes to court, those are not hours covered by the retainer.
Yes,
You know, the
originally-
custodial thing in particular rings a bell. When he goes to court
Yes.
for that,
Well,
that's
that was
separate.
a separate thing.
Right.
But originally, he was sending us a bill listing the hours, and then he'd discount that. Then he switched to a monthly fee. And if he works 0 hours, we pay him $4,000. If he works 1,000 hours, we pay him $4,000. That's the new deal. That's what we've been on for the last 3 years.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mr. Guarino, could you call the roll, please?
Okay. On the motion to approve the 6-month contract with Attorney Tom Clausen, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes,
Mr. Guarino votes yes, Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 9-0.
Okay, one more, Ms. Oden?
I recommend the approval of the fiscal year 19 May transfer report as presented and accepted at the June 11th, 2019 Finance and Operations meeting.
Second. Okay, whenever you're ready for the roll, Mr. Guarino.
Okay. On the motion, on the transfer report, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
yes,
Mr. Guarino votes yes, Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 9-0.
And that concludes finance and operations.
Thank you. Will you be
Motions.
meeting over the summer in July
Yes.
and August? Yes.
Yes. I don't have the date of the next meeting, but yes, we will be meeting.
Okay, I'm sure it's on the website. Okay, moving on, Committee on Policy. Are you prepared, Mr. Guarino?
Yes, yes, Madam President. So our first item on Committee on Policy is to recommend approval of the proposed JLFR mandated reporting form.
Second.
Okay.
Mr. Guarino, to refresh my recollection, I think we didn't approve this last time because we thought it was already approved.
I believe that, so,
Okay,
yeah.
all right. Does anyone have any discussion? Mr. Kaufman?
Yes, 2 questions. The DW, in the upper left-hand corner, DW19R03, can someone tell me what that is, please? I don't recall seeing that in the header for policy before.
That could possibly be our number for the form.
Okay. And the other question is, I just want to make note, it doesn't have on it the provision of when the board would approve it and a revision history, which is typically included, even in forms of policy. So this is a policy, it's an R, so it's, I mean,
So it's an attachment, yeah.
yeah. So
So
it should be
perhaps-
somehow ensured that, you know, you have the date that this would be approved on here.
So you're
somehow.
thinking in the bottom, just put
Usually is a-
approved by the board?
That's what I'm thinking.
Okay.
Oh, it says board approved, but it's,
Oh, it has a spot, it just doesn't have the date because we didn't approve it.
is this a replacement or is this new?
No, it's the same.
Madam President?
Hold, one moment, please. Ms. Fitzpatrick was going to
I don't
answer
have any
Mr.
answer,
Kaufman's
yeah.
question.
Yeah.
This is the form that we've been using, but because we updated the policy, we thought it was important that the form that is used district-wide be attached to the policy, which is why it's an R, because
Okay.
it's an attachment for the protocol, but this is the form that we use in the district.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer your question, Mr.
Yes,
Kaufman?
thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Ms. Van Twyver.
I suggest that since there's no changes to this form, that if annotated board approval is reviewed and no changes, that Ms. Fitzpatrick knows the correct nomenclature to put there, but it means that we've reviewed it again and we don't see any needed changes.
Okay, that seems reasonable. Thank you, Ms. Fitzpatrick. I don't see any other hands, so why don't you go ahead and call the roll, Mr. Guarino?
On the motion to approve proposed JLFR, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay, great.
Okay. Our next item is, I move to approve policy DDA, grant funds, material, and services.
Second.
This policy was changed to note that it covers non-federal grants. And we had a long discussion at our policy meeting, and this is the way the committee approved to send to our full board.
Okay.
You ready for the
Comments?
Yes, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. So I'll be voting against this. There were changes proposed, actually proposed by the chair, that were never included in the document. I quite didn't understand that. And I had wanted a change that said all grant proposals require board approval. That is not in this current policy, and that's why I'll be voting against it.
Thank you. Any other discussion? I do have a quick question. And I'm curious about, do we know the volume of those small grants that teachers make? I know that many teachers get grants of like $1,000 or $500, or like, do we get a lot of those?
It's actually increasing. There's more and more of it. I'm going to be working in the next few months and sort of having some sort of grant form so that we in central office, where we get the checks, know what they're for. I mean, we're getting checks, we don't know what they're for. There's a lack of communication. We need to centralize the process a bit, but there are quite a few of these small grants that just seem to pop out of nowhere, and typically they're between $500 and $3,000 or $4,000. So we really need to sort of get the form, get some information, and then get it out to people to say, you know, if you're receiving grants on behalf of the Nashua School District, we at least have to know about it. We certainly want them,
Right.
But yeah, there needs to be a little more improvement in that. A lot of people have just decided to do it on their own, which is great, but
Okay, so good. And I see that the ones that are less than 5,000 are now going to have oversight. Well, they were before, but now we're reaffirming that they're going to have oversight by the superintendent, and larger ones will have oversight by the board. So, great.
That's existing text, it's not new.
Yeah, I know, but it's good to reaffirm it for everyone. So, great. Seeing no other hands?
Okay, on the motion to approve DDA, grant funds, material, and services, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
No.
Okay, no. Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
I have 8 yeses, 1 no. Motion carries. Our next item was elementary level group philosophy, ILLA. I don't think there are any changes to the old, but I believe we were changing the number to letters. Is that correct? That's correct? Okay. So I would move to recommend approval of policy ILAA, elementary level group philosophy.
Second.
Okay.
On the motion, Ms. Oden? Yes. Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
No.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-1. We have one. I also, which is not on not on our agenda, but we have the old elementary level group philosophy, policy 2231. So I would move to rescind policy 2231 since we changed it.
It's on the back.
Yeah, it's on the back.
Yeah, of that page.
Yeah, I think that that's warranted. We can't have two policies saying the same
Right.
thing. That's,
Right. So I move to rescind policy 2231.
I'll, oh, go ahead. Ms.
Second.
Porter.
Okay,
Everyone seconds it.
okay. Okay. On the motion to rescind policy 2231, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes. Did you get
Mr.
that?
Mosher?
Yes.
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes?
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter votes yes.
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay.
And that's all we have. I believe I have a calendar here. So our next policy meeting is going to be July 16th, 6 p.m. at Nashua High North Lecture Hall right here.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Guarino. Committee on Curriculum and Evaluation.
Thank you. Okay, so this was from our June 10th, 2019 meeting, and board members have the attachments from that curriculum meeting. They weren't reissued in this packet, but everyone does have them. The first is I move to recommend approval of the changes made to the TDEC rubrics as presented.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? I see no hands. Go ahead, Mr. Guarino.
On the motion, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
No.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes?
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
I have 8 yeses, 1 no. Motion carries 8-1.
Okay. The second is I move to recommend approval of the Choose Love at Social Emotional Learning pilot for K-5 for the 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
Okay. Oh, one moment, Ms. Hohensie. Ms. Porter, did
Okay.
you wish to speak to your motion?
I think this has been fully spoken to. We covered it at the curriculum meeting. It's been covered at numerous meetings, so I'm ready to move forward with this.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hohensie, go ahead.
I'd like to move to amend the motion on the floor to postpone approval of the Choosing Love for any social emotional learning program until such proposal includes an opt-out provision in conformance with state law RSA 18611, Roman numeral 9-C.
Second.
I'd like to speak to my motion.
Certainly.
Currently, there's no opt-out provision for parents if they find the program objectionable, because Choosing Love is designed to be interwoven into the curriculum. State law requires that districts allow exceptions when parents find course material objectionable. Choosing Love is a social emotional learning program which is being used nationwide. It's aligned to Common Core and it undermines local control. It's designed to invade student privacy to access every aspect of the child's life and development, acting as a virtual parent without parental consent. There are assessments that track and share private student data. Student records will be maintained without parental consent. This data will follow the student for life. SEL behavior modification programs are well underway in many states, including among them California, Connecticut, Georgia, Idaho, Illinois, Kansas, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, Missouri, Nevada, New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Vermont, West Virginia, and Washington. Other states are voluntarily getting into this controversial arena. Students will be given behavior modification training and expected to conform to the group. This program is designed to hijack the minds of students to promote safe schools and indoctrinate children. Children in some states are being forced to say that what they know is not true and prohibited from speaking what they know is true. The state is seeking to control and regulate our very ability to think and to communicate. This is coercive thought reform. Social emotional learning is the vehicle. SEL turns overburdened, untrained teachers into mental health therapists who may inadvertently label children inappropriately, even using political biases to do so. Behavioral counseling performed by non-professionals will result in lawsuits and district liability. SEL is essentially mental health counseling without parental involvement. Students will be scored as how well or how poorly they adopt the desired values, attitudes, and beliefs. Do we want public schools shaping children's emotions and ethical decisions? Some SEL schools are opening girls' locker rooms to anatomical males and refusing to call them boys and girls, but instead instruct teachers to sort students by meaningless designations like peanut butter and jelly or chips and salsa. Core competencies like self-management, social awareness, and responsible decision-making seek to mold the whole child. But who judges what these things mean? Not parents, that's for sure. Many parents have concerns about emotional training. Are moral values being taught? If so, which ones? Whose standards are being used? Are religious traditions going to be respected? Who is the ultimate authority, parents or the state? Among the core competencies outlined are relationship skills and self-awareness, which may include appreciating diversity. One Nashua parent has already reported that his 7-year-old is being instructed in reverse racism, and the board majority has done nothing to investigate. Apparently, they are not worried about inequity. Ethical responsibility and social engagement are emphasized, again, by whose definition? If a student holds politically incorrect beliefs, that student will be marked down for being antisocial or even bigoted. Those records will follow the child from school to school and will be noted on his college entrance recommendations. SEL is designed to be manipulative while preaching tolerance. The traditional mission of public education is to teach foundational skills such as reading, literature, math, and science. Why can't teachers focus on these core competencies and do them well? To be fair, there are some goals of SEL that could produce positive outcomes, like learning respect, empathy, perseverance, long-term planning, and delayed gratification. But it all depends on whose value system is applied. These traits could be developed locally, as they are a natural byproduct of a strong academic curriculum. Under SEL, students will inevitably be loaded with psychological assessments as values are approached as part of a nationwide agenda. Most parents would prefer to manage this training at home. To be fair, there are school districts, particularly urban areas, where parental involvement with their children is inadequate, and educators are tempted to fill in for what they view as dysfunctional parents. But this is treacherous ground. The district should aim to strengthen families, never try to replace families. Substituting the state for families is textbook fascism. Family bonds should be reinforced for the long-term benefit of children and communities. SEL is an ambitious effort. Who will be held responsible if children are harmed? Is there another motivation to promote a radical agenda? At most, the most at risk are the neurodiverse student population who are already being labeled as behavior problems. There is little understanding as to the root causes of these complex issues. Potential for abuse is high. In some districts, mothers of 8 to 10-year-olds are being told their children are in crisis and placed in lockdown with armed guards in emergency rooms dressed in paper scrubs despite their sensory processing disorder. Discrimination and ignorance has set these kids back years. There must be an opt-out provision for such students and others at the parents' discretion, or there will be lawsuits. Asking overburdened, undertrained teachers to provide mental health therapy is astoundingly short-sighted. When damage shows up, those who promoted this agenda won't be held responsible. It will be the district's liability.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hohensee. I'm going to take a minute to speak here. That was a profound misunderstanding of social emotional learning and the Choose Love program in particular. There were a lot of allegations there, and I didn't hear any citations of where any of that came from. I invite all parents and anyone in the district who has a concern about the program to visit the website, chooselove.org. The entire curriculum is publicly available, so parents are able to read it for themselves and evaluate how they feel about it. I would further direct our attention to one of our current policies, which is policy IGE, parental objections to specific course material. If parents find that they, after reading the curriculum that is online, have a specific objection, they have the absolute right to request that their student not participate in that programming. There's no mental health counseling, there's no psychological data collection. None of that is part of the curriculum, and none of that is part of the pilot. I'm not sure where that came from, but I do encourage all parents to go to chooselove.org and take a look at the curriculum for themselves so that they can make an informed decision for their own students.
Thank you.
Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. I want to thank Mr. Duffy for his earlier comment, and I would like to pursue one of the issues that he brought forward about the data that would be collected about the student, and Ms. Hohensee touched on it a little bit. So can someone tell me what data is collected? How will it be retained? How will it be used once this social emotional program is integrated into the curriculum? And then as a follow, I'll have that question. I have one other question that I'd like to ask.
Wait, Mr. Guarino, I see your hand. Ms. Fitzpatrick, will there be data collected on these students? Or Dr. Mosley?
No, and it's not part of their grade.
Okay, thank you.
Can I?
Briefly? Wait, I would like to answer Mr. Kaufman's specific question. Go ahead, Mr. Kaufman.
Okay, so the second question, I lost my track here, let me see. So the first one has to do with the data. I forgot my second question, I'm sorry, if I can come back to
I
me.
will come back to you, Ms. Hohensee. I'd like to give people a chance to speak. Ms. Oden, you had your hand up?
Yes, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Raymond, for speaking to it. I disagree with the majority of what Ms. Hohensee claimed was the problems with Choose Love or the SEL programs. But there was something that she said that I want to remind everybody. This board does not investigate anything. When anybody has a problem, it is not the responsibility of the board to investigate or to address the issue. It is a chain. It is within a school. It goes to the teacher. If there's no resolution, it goes to the principal. If there's no resolution, it goes to the assistant superintendent in charge of that level. And if there's no resolution, it goes to the superintendent. And if there's no resolution there, it goes to a hearing on the board. And the fact is, the board should not be investigating things because you have to be objective, just as a jury has to be objective when deciding something. So let me make clear, I know that the board should not be investigating anything of that nature when a parent complains to us. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Ms. Oden. And the policy is KE and KEB for anyone who wanted to look that up. Go ahead, Mr.
President?
Ms. Van Twyver, go ahead, and then we'll come to you, Mr. Guarino.
Yep.
Go ahead, Ms. Van Twyver.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that Mrs. Oden feels that way, because in the past she has not followed the procedure. It sounds like a good idea to do it, though. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Van Twyver. Go ahead, Mr. Guarino.
Thank you, Madam President. We need to cite our sources when we, and I think that was a very good point that you made, Madam President. There's a lot of things said that we just seem to be taken out of thin air. But I just wanted to say this is a pilot program, okay? And also, this is about our teachers researching ways to deal with some students, not all students, but some students. Those students that come from families that are in crisis, who whose children are in our classrooms who are not prepared in that environment, that's what this is for, to teach those students some competencies for being in a social environment which they may not have had before. That's what this is about. This is not for all students. This is for some students. And I want to say that I trust administration and I trust our teachers, that they are doing the right thing by our children. And I think we ought to trust them. They're tasked, our schools do not operate in a silo, in a vacuum. Everything that we see that's happening in our society, okay, our schools are a mirror to that. And I'm not talking about all families, I'm talking about some families that are in crisis, and their children also go to public schools. We have to allow our teachers, and our teachers are working hard. A lot of them are doing their own research on social emotional learning. So what I recommend, I'm not going to take up any more time, but I think what Ms. Raymond said is good advice. Go to the library, research it on your own. Don't take anyone's word for it, what social emotional learning is. Go online, research it, read up on it, ask your teacher, okay? And don't be afraid to talk to your teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to go Ms. Honsey and then back to you, Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. When we had the presentation here, a teacher told us that she already does this type of thing individually, locally. What this curriculum is going to do is going to standardize it. This is done in a dozen different states. It's going to be for all students, 15 minutes a week, and then it's interwoven into the curriculum. It's that interwoven part that I don't understand, and I need to be reassured that parents can opt out. That's why I put the motion to delay until we can have that reassurance. As to Mrs. Oden's remarks, there was no student that I investigated. This is from talking to parents in other districts, because it's in so many states. It's already out there. These are concerns that were brought to me. I didn't go seek them out, and that I've been listening and trying to understand the issue. Dr. McKinney told me, and I asked him for copies, he said there are assessments and surveys for students to measure the social emotional learning and the growth. I'm hoping to get copies. I looked online. There's a lot of information online. There's not just one little spot you can get. There's a ton of information. But I need to know that parents, if they have objections, especially if it's the neurodiverse population, that they will be allowed to opt out. If that is why I put the motion in there.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Fitzpatrick, are there assessments?
Yes, but they're not going to be part of their grade, and it's to help the teacher guide in terms of what areas the kids need more work on, whether it has to do with interacting in a way that's non-confrontational, if it's how they're dealing with their own emotions. So the assessments are to help guide the teacher's work.
Okay. And are those available in the curriculum information that is on the website? Yes?
Yes.
I believe so.
Yes.
Okay. So we're able to go to chooselove.org and see everything that would be used in our classrooms?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And we don't have to choose all of the parts. So,
Well, hold on, Mr. Kaufman was next, and then,
Thank you. So my second question, since this is a pilot program, as stated in the proposal, what are the exit criteria to determine success? In my opinion, we should be defining the success criteria in the beginning so we'll know what the objective is to measure at the end.
Okay.
Rather than having this, oh, we're going to do a pilot. We know what happens here, past experience. Pilots they just roll over. Even when you do a pilot, they changed it. That's what they did with competency grading, was that the pilot that was tested was dropped and something completely different was eventually implemented with no review by the board. So what I would like to know is what's the criteria for success to move this from pilot to rollout? And I'd like to know what that is before we approve it, or we vote on it, actually.
Ms. Porter, will the teachers be coming back to your curriculum committee?
So what I would like to remind people is of the pilots that we've had recently, and they've gone through a full vetting process. There has been extensive presentations of the pilots at the curriculum meetings before they've been approved and moved on to the full board. And, you know, I think the same thing, Ms. Fitzpatrick can concur with me on this, that it will go through a full vetting process. And, you know, if we think of the other pilots that we recently had, we made sure to have a broad representation on the teams.
That's correct.
It went through, you know, quite a rigorous procedure before it, you know, was approved or moved forward.
I agree.
Yes, I was part of the science, and that was
And that's
quite
the
a few
same way
people in the
the
room,
ELA,
including a parent.
Yes, yes, parents
I ha-
are part of
Can I
those
continue and
committees.
follow up on my question?
I'm sorry, I thought that was your question.
It is, but since we have new information from the chair, so not everybody can attend a curriculum meeting for whatever reason. So can you please explain to me, since I was not there, and I'm sure all the parents at home weren't there either, what is the criteria for moving from pilot to rollout?
Go ahead, Dr. Mosley.
We spend, I'm okay with Mr. with a board member saying they can't attend a curriculum meeting, that's fine. I think my question is, these meetings are also online, and you're able to watch these meetings and hear presentations that could answer that question. We also have information in our packet as kind of a follow-up, and you know, we're hashing out stuff we've already hashed out at the curriculum evaluation meeting at the full board. And so we have these subcommittees, and these were questions that we're pressing. I would just like to facilitate this in a way that we'll note the question, we can get back to you, but understand that these questions and others were broached and answered and responded to during the curriculum evaluation and in the information contained in your packet.
There is
Going on, and it says, okay.
this, Dr. Mosley, there is no information in this packet, okay?
Can
So
I
please
just-
don't
Mr.
state
Mr.
an
Kaufman,
untruth.
Mr. Kaufman, please
I
don't.
want an answer to my question,
Please
please.
do not.
The people out here should have an answer.
Mr. Kaufman, please do not interrupt people. No one likes being interrupted, including yourself, so let's all be courteous of each other. Secondly, the information is in the packet that we got last week that everyone was emailed and asked to bring to tonight's meeting so that you would have it for reference. Okay? So, Ms. Porter, I'm sorry, one moment. Dr. Mosley, did you have anything else?
I've said, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Ms. Porter.
Sorry. I began my thing by referencing the attachments from the June 10th, 2019 Curriculum and Education meeting, which are right here. You received this. It wasn't received in the Friday packet, but we had quite a thorough packet that went home. And instead of making copies again for this, we were requested to reference these that we already received. So you do have a packet of these materials.
Okay. So everyone is.
Can I please get an answer to my question? Okay, I didn't see it. My focus in the curriculum packet was on the presentation by the data analyst. That's what I looked at. That's what I asked for as an update. My focus here right now is, could you please tell me the criteria to move from pilot to rollout?
Well, I believe that the criteria will be that there will be a rigorous evaluation process, and then the teachers themselves, as they have with every other pilot, will come to us and tell us if they feel like this made a meaningful difference in their classrooms or not. And then, after that presentation, then the board will vote again. I feel like we're beating this kind of to death here, so I'm going to ask that we go ahead and do a roll call. First, on the amendment to postpone the rollout.
Okay, on the amendment to postpone the social and emotional learning rollout, Ms. Oden?
No.
Ms. Raymond?
No.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
No.
Ms. Van Twyver? Ms. Van Twyver?
Oh, I can hear it coming through her phone.
No? Okay. Mr. Guarino votes no. Ms. Hohensie?
No.
Did you vote no?
Yes, she did.
Okay, yeah.
Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
No.
Ms. Porter?
No.
The amendment fails. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 noes and 2 yeses.
Okay. Now, on to the original motion, which was to approve the Choose Love social emotional learning pilot.
On the motion to approve SEL pilot, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
No.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver? Ms. I think you have some.
Yes.
Yes, okay. Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
No.
Ms. Timmons?
Absolutely yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
I have 2 noes and 7 yeses. The motion carries.
Okay. Ms. Porter?
All right, we have one more. I move to recommend approval of the Mystery Science K-5 pilot for the 2019-2020 school year.
Second.
Okay. Do we have any discussion on that pilot? Okay. Can you please call the roll, Mr. Guarino?
On the a motion to approve Mystery Science K through 5 pilot, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay. Thank you very much. Ms. Porter, anything else?
Nope, we will be meeting again in September.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Committee on Human Resources.
All right, we're
I
going
was
to,
in Juneteenth today, so Ms. Porter took over for me because I was late. So she's going to give the report.
Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Okay. So I move to suspend the rules since the HR committee met today at 5:30.
Second.
Thank you.
On the motion to suspend...
For what purpose?
So that we can discuss the items that were discussed today.
For all business conducted at that meeting, or just the personnel recommendations, which is typically what we've done?
Which,
For the personnel.
for the personnel recommendations.
Yes.
Okay.
On the motion to suspend the rules, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay. So I'm looking at the first recommendation to approve the Assistant Director of Technology job description, and that was not on the agenda, so we didn't cover that. So I guess we're going to put that on for the next HR committee meeting.
Was that not discussed at the last HR
It wasn't,
meeting?
I didn't discuss it today, so I can't, was that done at the?
I believe it was done in May. Ms. Timmons?
Yes, it was done. It's just a job description. It was in the packet that you received Friday.
Yep. And so I believe the change was to change it so that the Assistant Director of Technology reports to the Director of Technology.
Right.
Okay. So I guess I'm looking for a motion to approve that change.
Okay, so a motion to approve the Assistant Director of Technology job description as amended.
Second.
Great.
Discussion?
Sure.
Thank you. So I notice in the qualifications section, there's no mention of the length of experience. So typically, when we do a job description for a teacher or for an administrator, the superintendent, we'll say we want 3 or 5 years of experience. So this particular job description under qualifications has no reference to time on the job, as it were. I don't know how else to say it. So without any specificity in terms of what kind of an applicant we're looking for at an assistant director level, I will be voting against it. It says they want administrative and supervisory experience, but it doesn't say how much. You know, just experience in technical and application technology within a school district desirable. Well, we're looking for 3 years experience, 5 years experience, 10 years experience. Director, even if it's an assistant director, should be a substantial amount of specific documented work experience. That's not in here, I'll be voting no.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Any other comments? I don't see any. So go ahead, Mr. Guarino.
On the motion to approve the Assistant Director of Technology job description as amended, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
No.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensee?
No.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries 7-2.
Madam President, I do have a question. I was a little late.
Oh, go ahead, Ms. Van Twyver.
Now that we have this job description, where are we getting the money to hire somebody, and what rate of pay would it be?
Okay, hold on one moment. Mr. Donovan?
I believe there's another position, I don't know it off the top of my head, that we're not filling, and this position's going to take that role. It was a position in IT. Do you know the name of it?
So there's a systems administrator position that is, that someone is retiring from, and that's where it's coming from.
Okay. So is that
And are you looking to hire this person this year?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any other questions, Ms. Van Twyver?
No, that's it.
Okay, thank you. Okay, back to you, Ms. Porter. It sounds like we're on to tonight's issues.
Okay, thank you. All right, so for the personnel recommendations, I think everybody has received a revised copy. I think that Ms. O'Gara passed that out. During the curriculum meeting, we made 2 changes. The first one was to rescind number 39, which is a duplicate of number 8.
Oh, okay.
And the second change was to amend number 31 to say grade 2 at Dr. Crisp, bachelor's step 2, $41,596.
Okay. I'm sorry, I did that way too slow. So
Okay,
it's not
number
Mount
31.
It's not Mount Pleasant, it's Dr. Crisp.
Right.
And step 2.
It's grade 2,
Okay.
and it's bachelor's step 2, $41,596. Okay, so my motion is to accept the revised personnel recommendations dated June 19th, 2019, with revisions.
Second.
Okay. Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you. I have a question about number 32. It speaks to a half position, ELL at the Nashua High School South. So my question is this part of the incremental head count for the ELLs that we approved in the budget for next year?
No.
So this is a replacement for someone?
Yes.
Okay, so while I'm at it, have you started recruiting for those for next year? For the incremental slots?
They've all been posted, and they are, all the schools are underway on recruiting for all of the positions.
Terrific, thank you.
Oh, that's fantastic.
I'll
Thank you,
second
Ms.
the motion.
O'Gara.
Did you?
Okay, so I believe Ms. Porter made the motion, Ms. Timmons
seconded it? Okay.
Yep. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, go ahead, Mr. Guarino.
On the motion, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensee?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 9-0.
Okay.
Okay, we have one more. I move to nominate Nancy McGuire as Assistant Principal for Amherst Street Elementary School for the 2019-2020 school year at an annual salary of $82,250.
Second.
Okay. Any discussion? No? I'm sorry, I missed her earlier this evening. I wrote the time down wrong.
That's okay. It was early.
But I hear it went well.
It did.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Guarino.
On the motion, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes, Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 9-0.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, Ms. Porter?
That's all. Thank you.
Okay, so if the board would indulge me, I'd like to take a 5-minute recess and then come back and vote to extend or not to extend. Is that acceptable?
Yes.
Does anyone have any objection to that? No? Okay, 5-minute recess starting at 9:05 PM. Thank you. Okay, thank you very much. It's 9:15. Our 5-minute break, as usual, lasted 10 minutes. But we are back in session now. And I believe we need to vote on whether or not to extend our meeting by half an hour. Would anyone like to make a motion? No one? Okay, are we going to adjourn or shall we continue?
All right, let's have a vote. Move to adjourn.
Okay. Do we have a second?
Second.
Okay.
Excuse
So-
me, can I ask, is there anything on the agenda that needs to be addressed tonight?
There's a contract and there's grants.
Okay.
So, all right. On the motion to adjourn. Oh, I broke it.
Can I?
Yeah. Well, I think we have to vote.
Okay.
I hate to say it, but I think that's the rule.
You're right. Okay.
On the motion to adjourn, Ms. Oden,
No.
Ms. Raymond,
No.
Mr. Kaufman,
No.
Okay.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes no, Ms. Hohensie,
No.
Ms. Timmons,
No.
Ms. Porter is not here. The motion fails.
Okay. So having said that, shall we vote to continue as our policy states?
Shoot.
I move to continue the meeting till we finish all the business of the day.
Second.
Okay. We have a motion?
Okay, on the motion to extend, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
No.
Ms. Van Twyver,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes, Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter. Ms. Porter's not here. Motion carries 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 to 1.
Okay, great. So we will continue on. Do we have any liaison reports? Ms. Timmons?
Miss Raymond, we are adjourning for the summer. We'll pick back up, the student representative and I, will pick back up in September.
Okay, great. I hope you both enjoy your summers. And, typically, student members are welcome to come to as many board meetings as they want, but if you have things going on in the summer, don't feel that you have to arrange your plans around our meetings. Okay? So, thank you. We do appreciate all of your insight and the things that you share with us.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great kids.
Any other liaison reports? No, I think we got a brief update about the strategic plan earlier. We had a we had a work session, and we're going to have another one next month.
Yep.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I'm sorry to speak for Ms. Porter, but she stepped out. Okay, unfinished business.
I have,
Go ahead, Ms. Hohensie.
I move to restore the marksmanship program on campus, making sure that a school resource officer is present whenever air rifles are transported within the building. And I'd like to speak to my motion.
I
If get a
object to the
second.
motion.
Second.
I object to the motion.
Go ahead, Mr. Guarino.
The reason why I object to it is because we actually are We have already had action on this for the ROTC program. We actually approved it. We're just waiting for the ROTC people to get back with us with information. So I don't think there's any need to belabor this anymore, and I don't think we should take this up right now before the board, because we've already taken action, and whenever the ROTC people come back and they've got the information they need to share it with us, and we can move on with it.
This is true. We already hashed this over.
Okay, but let's not speak out of turn. I believe Ms. Van Twyver had made the motion to suspend the program until we heard back from the horse pond fishing game about allowing that to happen
Right.
at their facility. Ms. Fitzpatrick, and then, well, I'll get back to you, Ms. Hohensee. I'm talking about Mr. Guarino's objection at this point. Do you have something regarding his objection?
I just wanted to update you that on Monday, Major Newton, myself, Ms. Bastoni, and Ray from the horse,
Yes.
thank you, the club, met, and we went through a list of questions, and he will be going to his board of directors for approval. He does not anticipate any issue with that. Major Newton and Sergeant Ellis will need to go to some specific training that's through JROTC, and they're planning on doing that over the summer.
Okay.
And so a lot of the questions that folks had asked were answered at that meeting, and I believe the plan is to bring the information forward when it's all compiled for you. So there has been movement on getting information and for those meetings to happen, and Ray does not see a problem with getting approval from the Board of Directors.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hohensee,
I'd like to speak to my motion, if I may.
go right ahead.
Thank you. I think, number one, time is critical. The marksmanship program was approved in April, then suspended in May, and it's now June. There may be progress, but delaying this program 1 month at a time, which is the interval between board meetings, is inappropriate. The initial proposal came to the board in February, which is 4 months ago. If this marksmanship program is to be successful in September, plans need to be made, equipment needs to be ordered, delivered, and set up. Lead time is necessary to make arrangements to begin the program on time. Given that we haven't resolved the problem created last month by pushing it off campus, then the program should remain on campus. Number two, let's empower students rather than letting fear rule. In 1932, FDR warned us that the only thing we have to fear is fear itself. We should be helping students overcome fear, offer safety workshops rather than leave students trembling at the thought of sporting equipment, which is essentially pop guns, being present in the building. We should require an SRO officer to oversee the safe transport of air rifles, whether they are non-functional color guards or not, rifles or not, within the school corridors. Let's help, not hinder. The JROTC cadets are preparing for a career of service. Their goal is to protect their neighbors and community. We should thank them and welcome them as they prepare for a life of service. We should applaud our local police and our military for taking the time to become proficient marksmen. That ensures our collective safety. And finally, 3, we need to stop secret maneuvering to remove JROTC from our district. The non-public discussion held prior to the vote to suspend should never have happened. The information discussed was discoverable on a constituent's right-to-know request. It was public, not confidential information. The minutes of that meeting should be unsealed. It is wrong to conduct secret meetings for public business without cause. Manchester District has a marksmanship program which operates on campus within a classroom without incident. Let's work together to make this happen in Nashua. Air rifles are sporting equipment used to develop marksmanship. No one needs to approve of guns or even war to understand the need to develop a strong military. Let peace through strength be our common goal.
All right, thank you, Ms. Hohensee. Does anyone else have a comment on this motion? Okay, I have some.
I just wanted to say, I object to people saying that there's been secret maneuvering going on. It's just absolutely false.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. I would like to remind everyone that the board voted 8-0 to seal the minutes because we all agreed that it was the appropriate thing to do. Having said that, I We just heard from Ms. Fitzpatrick that she's working cooperatively with Major Newton and Ms. Bastoni and the Horse Pond to do the things that are needed in order to have the program be successful.
And begin in the fall.
And begin in the fall, okay? I think we've been clear as a board that we support the JROTC in this endeavor. No one has any objection to them participating in marksmanship. And I just want to say something about the characterization of our students being ruled by fear. Their generation is a generation that has grown up with their peers being slaughtered in school. I'm old enough that never happened when I was in school. There wasn't a thing. School shootings weren't a thing, but they're a thing now. And to say to kids that when they see a gun, that they should automatically know whether it's a real gun or a toy gun while in school, I just think is disingenuous. I don't think that we have the right to put that burden on them or to judge them for any feelings that they may or may not have. So having said that, I think that the appropriate thing is to proceed with caution and to make sure that the marksmanship program is as successful as possible. On Ms. Hohensy's motion to restore marksmanship, with an SRO present as the rifles are moved throughout the building. Go ahead, Mr. Guarino, with the roll.
On the motion, on the motion, Ms. Zoden?
No.
Ms. Raymond?
No.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
No.
Ms. Van Twyver?
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes no. Ms. Hohensee?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
No.
Ms. Porter?
No.
I have 3 yeses and 6 noes. Motion fails.
Madam President,
Yes, Ms. Van Twyver.
I have to leave the meeting. I'm in a little bit too much pain tonight, so if you'll excuse me.
Okay, thank you very much for staying with us as long as you did, Ms. Van Twyver. If you have any questions or comments, feel free to email me later and we can discuss them.
Thank you. I'll watch the TV replay.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, so we have lost Ms. Van Twyver. Moving on to new business. We have some grants from the Nashua Education Foundation that they are generously awarding our district. Mr. Donovan or Dr. Mosley? I wasn't sure which one of you wanted to speak to them, if you wanted to speak to them or if you're just looking for a motion to accept them. Okay, so I'll go ahead and make that motion. I move that we accept the grant from the Nashua Education Foundation for spring 2019 in the amount of $21,005.89.
Second.
Okay. One thing I will say about this is the attachment we got says 2015, but it is the 2019 grants, so that was just a typo.
Okay.
Okay. Any discussion or questions on this, on these grants? No? Okay. I want to say a big thank you to the Nashua Education Foundation for supporting our school district and our teachers. Mr. Guarino?
On the motion to approve the grant awards from the Nashua Education Foundation, Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
Absolutely.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensee?
Yes.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
Motion carries 8-0.
Okay, great. The next item on our agenda is the approval of the 21st Century Grant Award. Do we have anyone that wanted to speak to that, or did you want me to make the motion to accept? Mr. Donovan?
Well, this is, we already have a 21st Century grant. This is to add 2 additional schools.
Oh, great.
And as you can see, it's a conditional one, which is different than the other 21st Century grants we've had. Typically, they've been 3 to 5 years in term without any conditions. This one has, for each year, you have to show growth in one of the common state indicators to get it for the following year. So basically, these two new schools it'll be a one-year deal. If they get the funds for next year, it'll continue. If not, then it'll just be a one-year deal with the two new schools.
Okay. I have two questions. The first question is, what are they using? Is it the SAS, not the SAS, the new state, the state testing? Is that the matrix by which they are evaluating our growth? And then the second question is, if we don't show sufficient growth, do we have to repay it?
We don't have to repay it, no, we just won't get it the following year.
Okay.
And what the actual indicators are, I'm not sure.
I don't think the SAS, go ahead, Donna.
One of the conditions is participation. So a certain number of students need to participate in the after-school program.
Okay.
And that's one of the conditions that they use for whether or not the program is successful.
Okay. Okay. Mr. Kaufman or Ms. Hohensee, I saw a hand over there. Oh, both. Okay. Go ahead, Ms. Hohensee.
I'm just curious, it says continued funding is based on academic growth, behavioral data. So what behavioral data are we collecting on students in this venue?
Well, a couple things. One factor is participation. The kids need to be there to be able to participate in the full program. The second piece is that there's a question about the SAS. The SAS is a state test that is given when kids are in school. So there is an internal mechanism in which we measure student growth. In terms of the behavioral piece, there's certainly, what I would say, same thing as our Choose Love piece around making good decisions and really speaking to the social emotional pieces that I know have been a subject of controversy, but certainly it's done in a way where, number one, this program is designed about good routines and good practices. Part of what this program is really sponsoring and championing is really about regression and making sure that our most vulnerable kids don't have those regressions and lapse in their preparation for the following year. The other piece doesn't necessarily mean about social emotional per se, but it's about good routines when coming to school, good practices, morning classroom, making sure that they make good decisions, not just at school, but out of school. And finally, there is an enrichment piece to this that we can certainly provide the board with additional information on that. But certainly, the idea of the program is to keep our kids engaged, to keep them in an environment with faculty, and also give them that additional academic support if that's what they need. But I'd be happy to supply the the entire board with the internal mechanisms around the assessment and also with the social emotional growth of the kids.
Okay. Thank you, Dr. Mosley. Mr. Kaufman? Or did Ms. Hohensee ask your question?
Well, I was just going to ask for just an overview of these programs. I kind of remembered they were after school, but I didn't recall just the scope. Dr. Mosley touched on it. So is it just really structured for students to keep them engaged in school over the summer when you talk about routines? Or what are the other purposes? How many schools is it in? 7? These are elementary? Are they?
Yeah, 7 elementary schools, and then
I mean, so
they're
if someone could
expanding
just
to
give an
2.
overview perhaps from me and maybe the public who doesn't know what these things are.
So Ms. Casey, the director of the 21st Century Program, did a very long, extensive PowerPoint and explanation at a curriculum committee meeting last year. But essentially, it's an after-school program that provides homework help, tutoring, there's physical activities, there's snacks. They work with the parents to engage them in their students' learning. And I think there's also a component where they work with the parents that if they discover a family is struggling in some area, like they have needs that aren't being met, that they could help connect them to community resources. I know it's being expanded potentially into Birch Hill because my students go there and I got something home informing me of it. And Sunset Heights is the second school. It's already in all of our Title I schools.
Yep.
And we have fairly good participation, and if you search for it in our minutes, there was a long curriculum committee presentation on it, I think last fall.
Thank you very much.
Yep. Does that
No,
sufficiently?
that's
Okay.
exactly what I was hoping to get.
Okay, great. So in that case, I'll make the motion. I move to accept a 21st Century Community Learning Center grant for 5 years. The first year in the amount of $270,000, funding to commence July 1st, 2019, and additional funding in years 2 through 5 to be contingent upon showing growth in one or more of the common state indicators as described by the 21st Century Program.
Second?
On the motion, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie,
Yes?
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 8-0.
Okay. Great. And then the next item is the approval of the NASIS contract for 2019-2020, which is the administrators and supervisors. Do we require a non-public to discuss this, or are people comfortable with the contract as it was presented in our packets?
I'm comfortable with it, and let's vote on it.
Okay.
I'm comfortable with it.
Yeah, me too.
Okay, great. So, Mr. Donovan.
Just one small change. By the way, our budget was approved by the alderman last week.
Oh, yay.
So, but in there is the Director of Communications. It says hours per week and days per year. It says 20 to 260. That position in our budget was moved from 20 to 30.
Okay.
So just, that can be a note when they adjust this.
So how does that work, Ms. O'Gara? If our contract says 20, but we, in our budget, made it 30 and it was approved by the alderman, does the contract need a revision?
I think we have to go back and talk to Attorney Clausen and also the president of the union. There's also the Assistant Director of Technology is missing from the appendix as well.
Okay. So are you recommending that we wait on this until next month?
No, certainly not. I think this is sort of an editorial change that can be made as long as you...
Could we just put in, an addendum or something to that?
Well, but I think you can probably do it by the time you finalize the agreement.
Yes.
But I would vote on it tonight. There's no reason to push this off another month,
So
because it then has to go to the alderman anyway.
if we vote on it tonight, the motion would have to include that we're approving it, provided that the assistant, so that the Director of Communications is 30 hours a week.
Yes.
I'm going to write this down. It's 30 hours. And that the, Director of Technology? Assistant Director of Technology
Will be
is
added.
added to
To Appendix A.
Appendix A. Okay. And then, just to make sure that I'm clear and everyone is clear on this, we approve it, and then it would go to the NASIS to approve it with those changes, or no?
Yes.
Yes.
So you could
And
say-
then it would go to the alderman if everybody is on board. Okay.
And you could say in your motion, if agreeable with the union, because they do have to agree. They're not going to have a problem.
Yeah,
We
the
usually-
union did approve this contract.
I was going to say, don't they usually approve it
They
first?
approved it, they did, 22 to nothing, but this change, just this Appendix A change, they didn't. They've been notified of it, I'm sure they'll approve it. It's just making something accurate is all it's doing. But they voted 22 or 23 to nothing to approve the contract.
If they vote it down, it comes back to us, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't.
Go ahead, Mr. Kaufman.
I think we should do things a little cleanly. I mean, if you have two things, you have the approval of the union, and then you have, is this going to require more, there is money in the budget for the 30 hours? We put that in there? It's just essentially a typo in the
No, it's
doc.
just the budget just got approved. When this contract was approved, it was a 20-hour position. The budget just got approved last week, and so it thus changed the position
To 30 hours.
to 30 hours. So the
Right.
position in the budget going forward is 30 hours. The person's going to be working 30 hours. Now, since this isn't, now's the time to fix it instead of just ignoring it, right?
And that was a line item that we voted on during our budget
Yes,
process.
exactly.
Specifically.
Okay. I just want to say I'll be voting against it, not for this reason, although I do believe we should have a clean document when it goes to the alderman and not be footnoted. But the problem I have with this contract has to do with the amount of sick days and vacation days and whatever. So someone in the district who's been here for 20 years can get 50 days off a year. And to me, that is unsustainable. And that's why I voted against it before, and I'll vote against it in the future. Thank you. Bye.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Ms. Hohensee?
I have just a couple of questions. So looking at this step chart, there were 2 years contract approved previously. That's why they're struck out, and we're adding 1 year, not 2 years?
Correct.
Okay. And this clause on page 15 where it says, if it employees on remediation, they don't get a step, they don't get an increase. Is that standard that we do that? I've never seen that before.
I believe it's in the principal contract as well.
Okay. I guess I just didn't notice it. I just didn't want them to be singled out, the only ones. And then there was, it says, and here, the union dues voluntarily submitted are withheld. That, we put that in our other contracts to make them consistent? This on page 6, where it says union dues upon receipt of voluntarily executed deduction card.
Each contract is negotiated,
And we've updated it
and
with
so
this?
both parties agree to that language in the contract.
But isn't that the current
law
that
It is.
it has to be voluntary?
It
So-
is.
Okay.
Okay. Do we have any information on how many people have opted out? I don't mean personally, but I mean just ballpark numbers?
I believe
Maybe
they're
not-
just starting the dues deduction. No, we don't
Oh,
have.
so it's just going forward?
Mhm.
Okay.
Right, because they're recently unionized.
No, I don't mean this union, but the other unions, just overall. Is there any movement, or is everything pretty much the way it was before?
We haven't tabulated that. We
that
don't track it. We take the union dues forms when the person is at orientation. We send it over to city payroll and we put it in the personnel file.
Okay, well, it's never been an issue before, so we wouldn't been able to track it, but,
Okay.
thank you.
All right, so the motion that we're looking at is that we are looking to, let's see, I move that we approve the Nashua Board of Education and the NASIS 2019-2020 agreement with the following changes. That the Director of Communications is 30 hours weekly, and that the Assistant, Technology Director is added to Appendix A.
Second.
Yes, Mr.
Question.
Kaufman.
So what you said earlier was there's an existing position someone is retiring from, and that money is going to be reallocated to the Assistant Director of IT.
Yes.
So my question is, is the position title of the soon-to-be former employee still listed in the contract as a funded position? Or should the contract also reflect that that position has gone away and in other words, is there?
The title, there's more than one person who holds the title of that position.
Oh, okay.
Systems Administrator.
Okay, so it wasn't a unique individual then? Okay, just wondering if that needed to be removed, that's all. Thank you.
Oh, my thing on. Okay, Mr. Guarino, go ahead.
On the motion of approval of the contract, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman,
No.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensie,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries 7-1.
Right, thank you very much. Okay, so now we are, Mr.
Here.
Kaufman?
Thank you. I move that the administrators and hold on. Could you give this to Mr. Guarino? I hand wrote it, so. Thank you. Move that the administrators and administrative staff that fulfill right-to-know requests, along with members of the board, shall receive right-to-know training from Right to Know New Hampshire before the start of the next school year. And if I can get a second, I'd like to speak to my motion.
Second.
Thank you. May I go ahead, Ms. Merriman?
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you. So there have been issues with right to know. Superintendent Mosley has accused some members of this board of weaponizing the right to know law. We've seen things where I believe mistakes have been made in upholding the law. We recently had something that came forward, which we later were told was inappropriately included in a response to a citizen request. And I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the right to know law, what's permissible, the use of email in certain areas and things. So that's my reason that the board, as well as the staff that fulfills the requests, should get proper training. So thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. I have a couple questions about that. Do we know if the New Hampshire School Board Association provides that training? We don't know. Given that we voted to join? We don't know.
I can investigate that.
Okay, thank you. And then.
And there's
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry, Ms. Raymond. There's a mutual agreement on that membership if there's a
Oh, okay.
symbiotic
So we
relationship.
will then apply, and then we can ask that question. Okay.
When does our membership take effect? Is it with the new budget? So it would be in July? Is
So
that
in July, we can apply.
apply for membership in the School Board Association?
Yes.
Okay.
Wait.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Okay,
Okay.
thank you.
So, give me one moment, I've lost my train of thought. Oh, secondarily, I know that we have received training and information on numerous times from both Mr. Clausen and Mr. Bolton regarding this. Do we feel that having them come back and revisit this would be sufficient and acceptable? Perhaps a work session or a non-meeting? I understand that that's the motion. I'm asking if this would be something to consider as well.
But you would amend, point of order, I think you would amend the motion or take a vote on this motion.
Let's take
You're
the vote.
doing a poll, you're essentially doing a vote outside the motion that's on the table, so that's why I'm confused.
Yes, point taken. Thank you, Mrs. Hohensee. So I retract my question.
Okay.
I'm going to then make it a statement. I think we ought to, instead of spending money on a training, I think we ought to ask one of our attorneys to come and give us some information on it. Ms. Hohensee, goodness gracious, Ms. Oden.
I think Attorney Bolton has given us some information on this. I distinctly remember Mr. Clausen giving us information on especially the fact of emails being sent to the entire board, and it doesn't seem to have done much good because people do it. So I don't see a real reason for this because it seems like people do what they want to do.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Guarino and then Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you, Madam President. I'm not going to vote for this. This is just another waste of time. There are some people that are fixated on right to know. They seem to be obsessed on this board. This is not the way to operate. I think that there are some members of this board who don't understand their role on this board. It's not to be a rogue actor filing right to know and harassing administration. That's not what our role is on this board, okay? So I'm not going to vote for this. Just another giant waste of time. Thank you.
All right. Mr. Kaufman and then Ms. Hohensee.
This is about being trained by a third party. Personally, I think some of the advice given to us by one or more of our attorneys has been incorrect regarding the use of email. As a board member, you have the privilege to write to the board and make a request to the chair and inform all board members that you've made an agenda request. So that is legal under the right to know law, in my understanding and interpretation. So yes, I'm going to continue to do that. And what my purpose is getting a third party, be it the School Board Association or Right to Know New Hampshire, to validate what is in fact the law. Because I think we've received bad information, personally. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Hohensee, and then...
Thank you. I take offense to be calling a rogue actor. I think he's characterizing us, instead of just talking about the issues, we're talking about personalities, and that's inappropriate. We have gotten different information from within the district on how to use the right to know, conflicting information. So in that sense, I think somebody outside the district, somebody that specializes, if you go to an attorney, they don't all specialize in the right to know. We need someone who is an expert on this particular law and can update the board on the proper use of this law.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Oden?
Move to table until we join the New Hampshire School Boards Association and get information from them. Thank you.
Second.
Okay, does anyone have any discussion? Okay. On the vote, on the motion to table it until we get information from the New Hampshire School Board Association.
Ms. Oden?
Yes.
Ms. Raymond?
Yes.
Mr. Kaufman?
Yes.
Mr. Mosher?
No.
Mr. Guarino votes yes. Ms. Hohensee?
No.
Ms. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Porter?
Yes.
I have 2 noes and 6 yeses. The motion is tabled until we get more information from the association, School Board Association.
Okay, great. Ms. Timmons?
Madam Chairman, that may be after July, it may be never. We may never be able to join this term.
I certainly hope that that does not turn out to be the case.
So, just so you know, they're not too happy with us.
Wow.
Can you explain, please?
I rather not.
Well, you
I
just
just said-
disclosed something to the board
I'm just
publicly.
saying
Would you
to
please
you
explain it?
that they may not. That's just my opinion, okay?
You
it's a
don't
cryptid.
You're out of
Excuse
order.
me.
You're out of
You're-
order.
Mr. Guarino,
I didn't hear you give him the floor.
I didn't, but I'm
Okay,
still in
well,
charge.
I'm just saying, one member does not get to grill another member. There's no respect there.
I agree, but I didn't have an opportunity to say anything to Mr. Kaufman because you jumped in. So if you could please allow me.
Go ahead. Proceed, Madam President.
I try to be polite and respectful to everybody and to let everybody have their say. So Ms. Timmons made a statement. Mr. Kaufman had a question, which could have waited, but that's okay. These things happen, and now we can move on. Okay, so Ms. Timmons expressed her personal opinion, and that's fine. Moving on. I forgot to put the public comment sheets back out for public comments regarding items not on the agenda. I apologize to the public. That was my mistake. Is there anyone who wanted to make a public comment about things not on the agenda? Ms. Howes. I apologize for not putting the sign up back out. I just forgot.
Okay. And green button is on. You can hear me?
Yes.
My name is Deb Howes. I'm a teacher at Amherst Street School. I'm also Vice President of the Nashua Teachers Union. This actually is just a follow-up from the beginning of the meeting, so it is things that were on the agenda. I want to thank the board for the action it took on adopting the pilot for social emotional learning. As a teacher at Amherst Street School, I've been there 16 years, I see many students that come in with the need for some learning in this area, excuse me. It's also pollen season. I have heard descriptions of social emotional learning tonight that are far from what this is about. There are many different programs that teach social emotional learning. None of them are indoctrination. None of them are trying to take the place of families. We have many students that come into the classroom that have trouble getting to the academic content we want to teach them because they are bringing in baggage with them. They are angry about things they've been exposed to either in their past or outside of school, or sometimes upsets inside school that happen on the playground, at lunch, during their less supervised time, less structured time. And they have trouble letting go of this stuff and getting to the reading, math, whatever else you're trying to teach them. All social emotional learning does, at its most basic, is try and get these students to recognize their own emotions and then eventually learn strategies to help regulate their emotions so then they can get down to learning the content you're trying to teach them. So you're just trying to get the kids to look at how they're feeling and how to deal with their feelings so they can get on to the learning, reading, math, social studies, science, all the good stuff we need them to learn to be productive, functioning citizens. And the other piece of it is recognizing that other people also have feelings so they can deal respectfully and civilly with each other. It is not a plot. It is not trying to take over anyone's family or anyone's point of view in the outside of world. It's just trying to help our students get along better in school with each other, get to their work better, and let go of these other things that they bring in with them, whether it's from outside of school or from the playground or the lunchroom or wherever else. I also want to share something else because at the beginning of tonight's meeting, we heard some negative things about our school district, and that was comparing our schools just in a rote list to all other schools in the state. I know that we should be looking at our students and how they grow and change and celebrating the growth they make. So I want to leave on a positive note because I want the members of this board and anyone who's still watching at home to hear some of the wonderful things students have done. I just have some data from my school where I work that our wonderful assistant principal shared with us. The kindergartners at Amherst Street School, when they came in the fall, 78% of them met the expectations in early literacy. By the end of the year, 96% of them did. So they could recognize their letters. They could, put together letters into words. They could do some basic reading. On the SAS, that's the state testing, in 2017 compared to 2019, 8% more of our grade 3 students are proficient in reading, and 25% more of our third grade students are proficient in math. In grade 4, that's 14% more proficient in reading and 6% more proficient in math. In grade 5, 9% more in reading and 10% more in math. That is growth. We are moving in the right direction. Do we have more room to grow? Of course we do. But you need to be comparing students and how much they are growing, not my school to some school in Bedford, or some school in Concord, or some school in Portsmouth. We need to look at where students start and how much they improve, not my students who come in with challenges versus students who don't have the same challenges. And one more thing, I know it has many faults. In 2013, 36% of the students at Amherst Street School were reading on grade level. And now 54% are reading on grade level. It's progress. We're not done yet, but we are making huge progress. So I don't want to hear anyone discounting the progress we're making. We're working very hard, our students are working very hard, and we need to celebrate our successes. And once again, thank you for listening.
Thank you, Ms. House. Okay.
That is positive.
Okay. Was there anyone else who wanted to make a public comment about items not on the agenda? Okay, I don't see any hands, so we are now on to the board comments. I'm just going to go around the room. Mr. Kaufman?
Thank you. I want to thank, I want to congratulate the high school, both the students at the high schools who've graduated this year, and as people move up or move on to the next grade. I also want to thank, obviously, the teachers that make that happen with our students. I also want to acknowledge the graduates over at the adult education area, and also at Clearway. I know that it takes a lot of hard work to get there, and the students have really pulled their own weight to get there. And I do value the teachers that really, not only give them the education, but it takes a lot of encouragement and to sustain that for a long period of time. So congratulations and thanks to all of them.
Thank you, Mr. Kaufman. Ms. Hohensee?
Thank you. I want to thank the student representatives. They brought us information that they've finished doing their procedures, and hopefully that will go to the board. I think there's a policy says that the board has to review and approve that, so we can get it into the handbook so everybody sees that information next year and there's no confusion.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Hohensee. Mr. Mosier, did you have a comment?
No, I'm just contemplating the advances that we made through some of our students in the high school. One in particular that I bring up that I recall as a thing which was a big help to emergency personnel when they were involved in an accident or a construction or industrial accident where a ring had to be removed from the finger, and to do it without cutting the skin, they had devised a device like a pair of pliers that they could use. They could snip the ring and spread the ring open and remove it from the hand because the hand was so swollen that they couldn't do it otherwise. And I was just amazed that this was done, and perfected by these guys in high school. That amazing thing. So I'm very impressed with the high school kids and their ability to see a problem, analyze a problem, and then do something to fix it. Okay. So, yes, very much.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Mosier. Mr. Guarino?
Thank you, Madam President. I'd like to congratulate all the graduates from our high schools. I wish them the best in their future endeavors. You have a great achievement and a great foundation for the next chapter in your lives, whatever that is. Congratulations to all our graduating students and their families. I want to thank our teachers for all their hard work. I want them to know that parents like me are very thankful for everything that you do for our children. I hope everyone enjoys a well-deserved break, students and teachers, over the summer. For those returning, have a safe and enjoyable summer, and see you back in September.
Thank you, Mr. Guarino. Ms. Oden?
Yes, at the last meeting, it kind of went late, I guess, and the Telegraph did a nice article on Jeff Leone, the video teacher, the CTE program at South, and he was named Lions Club Teacher of the Year, and I want to recognize him and thank him because so many of our students benefit from him. When I look at the program he put together to bring the CTE program to the middle school because they couldn't come, just an amazing job that he does. And so many of our CTE teachers and the directors, it's a shining star certainly for Nashua. Congratulations to all the graduates, to the teachers, to all of our students. Have a safe and relaxing summer, And hopefully, we will have no snow days next year.
All right, Ms. Porter.
First, I want to thank Deb Howes for your comments. I really appreciate everything. You very well stated. Thank you. That's what public input is for. Thank you. And I want to thank each and every employee in the Nashua School District. There are many people who have many jobs who all work together for the same goal of giving our students the best that we can. So thank you for every employee, no matter what your job is. Well done to all of our students and families, and wishing everyone a safe, happy, and healthy summer.
Thank you. Ms. Timmons?
Yes, I'd like to also thank everyone for a job well done, all the teachers and all the administration and everything that you did for our children. I know my kids was happy this year. I would like to echo everything everyone said positive. We started out positively. I want to end positively, so I'd like to adjourn.
Wait, can I? Everyone does this. Every meeting, I'm like, let's do board comments. And every meeting, everyone gets a comment,
Oh,
and
we
then
heard you
right
all
before
night. We
me,
heard you
people
all
are like,
night.
let's adjourn.
Yes, let's adjourn. We heard you enough tonight. We love you, but you did a wonderful job this season. Thank you very much, Miss Raymond.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Timmons. Okay, me. I have 3 quick things, assuming that anybody
3?
is still watching. Yes, 3. Okay, first is I went to Chunky's last weekend for my son's birthday, and I have the utmost respect for 5th grade teachers because my 3 hours with 11-year-olds was awful. But Pennachuck students made a wonderful video. It's an anti-bullying video that they worked on with some of the high school students and with the National Prevention Coalition that's being aired at the Chunky's movie theaters with the previews. And all of the students that I was with really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it, and I just wanted to say well done to those students. They have done an amazing job. The second thing I wanted to talk about was the community lunch program that's being run this summer. So I know we're all off and we're thinking about summer, but some of our kids have some food insecurity. And so for those families that are in that situation, or even for families who are out and about, there is a free lunch program at the library. Any child under the age of 18, including small children, is welcome to have lunch at the library every day. I forget what time it is. I think it's 11 or noon. What, 10 to 2? 11 to 2 p.m. At the library. There's a number of other locations about the city, but I don't know all of them off the top of my head. All students in the district got a flyer home with all of the locations. And the last thing, because we are the Board of Education, and I know it's summer, but there's a summer reading program that our library specialists worked on with the Nashua Public Library. I have the little brochures here. Oh, I'm hiding it. So if you go to the Nashua Public Library or you go to their website, you can register for this summer program, and they track hours. So they're really looking at effort, because it's not the number of pages you read, it's not the number of books you read, it's how much time students are spending reading and improving their skills. And I encourage all families to sign up for this. There's a lot of cool prizes that will be awarded, and you don't have to wait till the end of the summer. You get prizes for, I think it's like 100 minutes for the first one. It's really great. My kids and I have been to the library 3 times in the last 2 days because they're excited, and also it's been raining. That's all I had. Mr. Kaufman.
Thank you. A move to go into non-public under RSA 91A3 2C, matters which, if discussed in public, likely would affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the Board of Ed, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Second.
Okay, Mr. Guarino?
On the motion to go into non-public, Ms. Oden,
No.
Ms. Raymond,
No.
Mr. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
No.
Mr. Garrido votes no, Ms. Hohensee,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
No.
Ms. Porter.
No, excuse me, no.
Motion fails 6-2.
I'd like to make a motion to adjourn.
Okay.
I'll second. Okay, on the motion to adjourn, Ms. Oden,
Yes.
Ms. Raymond,
Yes.
Ms. Kaufman,
Yes.
Mr. Mosher,
Yes.
Reno votes yes, Ms. Hohensee,
Yes.
Ms. Timmons,
Yes.
Ms. Porter,
Yes.
motion carries. We are adjourned at 10:08.
Okay, meeting adjourned. Thank you all for coming. Thank you, Mr. Mosher, and I will speak to you later.